How do you see it, Judea? If I were to ask you, when your grandson is a young man, he's going to university, UCLA, or I hope he comes to American University in Washington, how do you see, how is Israel and how's the Palestinian relationship? Will there be two states? Will they live in harmony? Will there be peace?
My utopia?
Yeah.
Oh, my utopia, I love to talk about it.
Tell us. Give us hope.
My utopia is two states for two legitimate national movements living side by side in peace and harmony with security, equally indigenous. This is the key word for peace. Equally indigenous. Okay? One is indigenous on the basis of historical continuation, one is indigenous on the basis of physical presence. Okay? Both are limping, deficient, okay? But both are willing to accept each other's deficiencies and accommodate. This is my utopia.
And we are in a house of God, we can say Amen and we pray that it happens. Beautiful, beautiful utopia. Now, Judea, tell me as a practical engineer, do you think it will ever happen in the next couple of decades? What do you see, realistically?
I hate to be an engineer. I do not see it happening in the next decade.
Not happening?
No.
Any movement at all? Is there young leadership emerging among the Palestinians and among the Israelis who are going to think differently?
I hate to be one-sided here, you see, but then I have to be. This utopia has been accepted by the Israeli public from top to bottom. I was brought up on this utopia. My cousins today in Israel are bringing their children up with this utopia.
They are. They have this.
Constantly. I was brought up in the constant bombardment by my teachers. Today's our enemies, tomorrow your neighbors. Don't let me ever hear you speak like that against Arabs, okay? That was this theme, the constant culture. We are preparing for peace. And the utopia of two states for two solutions has been since 1937 when the Peace Commission was there. So I must say that the Israeli public has accepted this utopia and are working toward it. But they are watching very carefully the Palestinian street. They haven't seen any movement there in terms of perception and acceptance of that
For
utopia.
both, are you talking about both Hamas and Fatah? Or is there
On
a
Fatah,
difference?
yes. It's on the difference.
Both?
I'm telling you what my friend told me from Israel. Fatah and Hamas is only a difference in tactics. One wants to remove Israel by force, and right now, the other one in stages. First get a Palestinian state, and then start shooting missiles here and missiles there, and blame it on some extremist group, but continue to erode and erode and erode. The utopia is one state for the Palestinians.
And no Israel.
No Israel.
And
Some of them are enlightened, and they say that the Israelis will be able to live as a minority in the Palestinian state and will not be shipped to Germany. These are the enlightened ones. Okay? But it so happens that 99.9% of the Israeli public is devout Zionists. They don't want to go back to Germany. So that is why I'm pessimistic. On one hand, you have 99.9% that you have to talk to. And the Arab utopia is you're not going to retain your sovereignty here. It's a temporary sovereignty.
Have Israelis made an attempt, Judea, to send scholars and cultural ambassadors and peace activists into the Palestinian camps?
Constantly. The number of dialogues, interfaith festivals that you have in the West Bank is enormous. Somebody measured in the hundreds. Okay? They are meeting constantly.
And no impact?
There's no impact. Because, no, it's no impact. No impact that you can say that penetrates the heart and mind of people.
This is a very disturbing situation when you have this total breakdown of two civilizations. Judea, we've talked about this before, where I give the example from my part of the world, India and Pakistan, where we have much less in common between Muslims and Hindus than to Jews and Muslims, because the similarities between Jews and Muslims is really striking. It's amazing. Hindus and Muslims, of course, see the world in very different ways. And there has been, again, two streams. One, the mystics and the Sufis, who were able to bridge the gap. And then the men of confrontation in Islam, who took a very Abrahamic position. But even there, Judea, I don't think either side wants to wipe out, as it were, the other side. I think
you're talking about the
India, Pakistan. That there the utopia for both would be that we both live in peace and we are both able to live. And remember, India and Pakistan have fought 3 wars, both are nuclear, and that is a dangerous part of the world, because we are talking of 1.5 billion people. India and Pakistan together form 1.5 billion people, so it really is like 2 giants locked horns. And yet, when they visit each other, there's so much goodwill generated. There is so much shifting of prejudice and opinions. And I know that whenever the Sikhs come across, the Hindus come across Pakistan, and vice versa, people are incredibly hospitable, and they really say, look, let's somehow go back to the pre-47 days when partition took place, and at least recognize our borders, live with integrity, you as Pakistanis, we as Indians, but with friendship and respect.